In Washington, this is VOA News. I'm David Forrest reporting. Russian President Vladimir Putin says war with Ukraine is unlikely. In a TV interview, Mr. Putin said he hopes such an apocalyptic scenario will never happen. He also said he does not think another meeting with France, Germany, and Ukrainian representatives on resolving the conflict in eastern Ukraine is needed. Ukraine's claim that members of the Russian administration were behind bloodshed in Kyiv, he said, are nonsense. British Prime Minister David Cameron today told lawmakers that more sanctions should be imposed on Russia if pro-Russian rebels in Ukraine attempt to expand their territorial control. Officials of the United States and Iran say they have some progress made in their negotiations on Iran's nuclear program. They say an agreement is still a long way off, however. Both sides describe a second day of talks in Geneva between U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif as serious, useful, and constructive. New U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton Carter is holding talks in Kuwait with top U.S. commanders and diplomats. They are discussing U.S. efforts to fight the Islamic State group. Carter flew to Kuwait City from Afghanistan to chair the meeting at a U.S. Army base there. A Liberian health ministry official says his country will continue to observe all Ebola preventative protocols and regulations until it achieves zero infections. This comes as President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Sunday ordered the lifting of the nationwide Ebola curfew put in place in August. She also ordered the opening of the country's borders with its West African neighbors. This is VOA News. French authorities moved at home and abroad today to counter the threat of Islamic terrorism, seizing the passports of 6 jihadi suspects in France and deploying an aircraft carrier in the Persian Gulf to bolster the fight against the Islamic State group. Lisa Bryant has more.
France's Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve said the passport seizures of suspected Islamists were only the beginning.
Ces 6 interdictions administratives de sortie du territoire qui ont été d'ores et déjà
Cazeneuve said besides confiscating the passports of 6 would-be jihadists, the state is preparing another 40 administrative bans on leaving the country. The aim, to reduce the risks of people wanting to join terrorist movements in Iraq and Syria. Cazeneuve described the average profile of those targeted as young, with 20% of them converts to Islam. Lisa Bryant for VOA News, Paris.
Greece slid past its deadline today to hand economic reform proposals to its European creditors. Officials say they should have it ready on Tuesday morning. The submission is part of an agreement to extend the Greek bailout for 4 months. Libya's internationally recognized parliament, based in Tobruk, today voted to pull out of UN-sponsored national dialogue talks with a rival government based in Tripoli. Edward Uranian reports.
Member of Parliament Omar Gaith says that lawmakers have summoned their delegation to the talks in the Moroccan capital Rabat, due to have been held on Thursday, to return to Tobruk for consultations. He says that the decision to suspend participation in the talks does not mean Parliament intends to boycott them, but that the climate isn't ripe for dialogue following a series of events, including the killings of 21 Egyptian Christians, car bombings in Cuba, and given that the other side is not, in his view, serious about talks. Edward Uranian, Cairo.
Kenya's constitutional court threw out part of the country's new anti-terrorism law today, including restrictions on the media. The court upheld a provision permitting authorities to detain suspected terrorists for nearly a year without charging them. The Obama administration is seeking to lift an injunction issued by a Texas judge that would block the president's plan to defer the deportation of millions of illegal aliens. The Justice Department is responding to U.S. District Judge Andrew Hanen's order in a legal fight that could be destined for the U.S. Supreme Court. The Homeland Security Department's $40 billion budget is set to run out Friday at midnight because of the dispute over President Barack Obama's executive actions to limit deportations. From the VOA News Center in Washington, I'm Dave DeForest.
That's the latest world news from VOA.